Hey guys, Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time on Doctor Who Classic, we had The Evil of the Daleks, parts 1 through 4. So, would you like to recap it, or should I?
Well, just before we started filming, I was discussing the fact that I've literally forgotten everything about it. I knew that they were trying to find some kind of human factor to put into the Daleks, but I had literally forgotten everything else. So, if you want to remind everybody.
Yes, so last time, after searching for the TARDIS, the Doctor and Jamie wound up being taken back in time to, I believe it was 1866.
Yes.
And where this guy, Waterfield, his daughter Victoria, was being held prisoner by the Daleks in order to have him cooperate. And so that's why he's working with the Daleks. There's this guy, Maxtable. He's working for the Daleks to find the secret of alchemy, which at least he believes that the Daleks know. It's unconfirmed whether or not the Daleks actually know that.
Yeah.
So, so there's that. And then they are trying to find the human factor because the Daleks are trying to figure out why humans always beat them. Obviously, we know the answer is the Doctor beats them, but that's all right. So they're trying to find the human factor that they can add to themselves to evolve and become better. So Jamie was sent through to save Victoria and had to fight a Turk named Kemal, and then the two of them allied with each other to save Victoria, and just as they were getting there, the Daleks came in to capture them, because I guess the test is over.
Yes, and there's also, is it Maxtable's daughter, Ruth?
Yes,
and then
that's
her
right.
mysterious boyfriend or fiance, and then the Toby guy who got killed, and there's a whole bunch of extraneous stuff that may or may not be explained in the last 3 remaining episodes.
Yeah, there was... He, had some sort of, dual personality going on, where part of him thought, where's Victoria being held? And the other thought, oh, no, Victoria's in Paris, so it's all fine, I guess.
And we kind of suggested that was a Robert Louis Stevenson, Jekyll and Hyde sort of thing. But, again, we have no idea.
Yeah, that's basically that. And I guess the other thing about the human factor is that the Doctor is specifically picking elements of, human emotion and reason to put into the human factor. So he's the one that's deciphering it for the Daleks. So, yeah. It's all very, very interesting plan. I mean, it is the kind of the best Dalek serial we've had. So, yeah. I guess that's pretty much that. We're watching the last 3 episodes of this today, and then next week we will actually be back around to Tomb of the Cybermen, which it's been a while since we watched that one.
Probably almost 2 years since we watched that.
Yeah, that was
right at the beginning of our tour through the classic Who.
Yeah, that might have been 2.5 years ago. A little close. It would have been, I guess, around the end of 2018. So, yeah. So about 2 years. So it'll be interesting. I did think, because that'll be the first episode of the season, that's when I offer full-length reactions for free, is on the first episode. And I realized, well, wait, is anyone going to watch the full length of the episode we've already seen? And I thought, well, there goes another one, because I can't get any of the full-length reactions, good. It's it's either recon or just, a not a good episode, or I don't know. So, yeah. I guess that's pretty much it. You got anything else?
I got nothing.
Then we should go ahead and finish off The Evil of the Daleks.
If they don't finish us first.
Oh, also, I've completely forgotten.
Oh, yes.
There we go.
Capaldi's sunglasses.
Yep. Not the exact same, style, but they're sunglasses, so close enough. Okay. Oh, they killed one.
Quick before we see any more of those mechanical beasties.
Mechanical beasties. I don't understand how it dropped over the...
I think they got the rope around it and pulled, which forced it over.
I have never seen you eat or drink anything. Now that's curious, isn't it?
Dr. Screwdriver is magnetically attracted to Terrell's
ordinary
sword.
sword, and yet it appears to be magnetic. And see, directly you let go, it loses its magnetism. Now, if I didn't
He's
know
an
better,
android?
Mr. Terrell, I'd say that you were full of some sort of electricity.
Flashing like a collection of sparks. But I know you are tired, Molly. You are tired, are you not? Tell me.
You know, Nicholas Tesla was very interested in mesmerism, if I recall correctly.
It was all your imagination. It was nothing but a dream. Do you understand?
Nothing but a dream.
That is
So he's a hypnotist, an alchemist, and a time traveler.
Well, I obey our masters. I prefer to call them our colleagues. It is their wish.
So naive.
Nah,
You
that didn't really work out for Mavic Chen.
do as you are told.
See, now you wonder, is he an android, or do the Daleks know hypnotism too?
He produced a whole battery of emotions, each one of which is imprinted in here, see?
The human factor.
Well, a part of it at least, the better part. Courage, pity, chivalry, friendship, even compassion.
Be careful.
That's weird to hear. I mean, all the human factors that he mentions sound like they would contradict with the Daleks and not work.
Terrell looks back as he goes through the partially open entrance into the trophy room. Jamie sees a shaft of light cast by a partially open doorway. Wonder if they're going to duel each other. Jamie grabs a sword from the wall, and a fight ensues.
This is the second fight of the episode that we can't see. You know, they made the animation of going up the rope. They couldn't make an animation of this.
As Terrell rises, the doctor reaches inside his collar and removes a small black box.
Under some sort of control.
Alright, so it was a little device controlling him. Maybe they're friendly.
What are you doing? Doctor, where are they taking you? Where are you taking me?
You just
Carnival ride.
You just hop off, man.
Bumper Daleks.
They're taking me for a ride! Jamie! They're playing a game!
They're just having
It's a
fun.
game! They're taking me for a ride!
Rather amusing little game, don't you think, Jamie?
Let that play just for a second. I want to see who's playing Terrell. Kerry Watson. No, he looks very familiar, but I can't place him.
Alright. That's part 5. A tiny bit goofy at the end, but that's alright.
Yeah. This didn't have an incredible amount of action, but it did advance the plot. I mean, there was a lot of, here's what we have to do, da-da-da-da-da, and we found out, what's wrong with Arthur, and he's got a controlling device of some kind, although we're not sure if that's the Dalek's device or something else's, because the voice in his head didn't sound like a Dalek.
I mean, I think it was. It was a lot lower, though.
Yeah.
So, but it was that sort of robotic effect on it. So I was kind of curious if they were just going to roll out and start being friendly, but yeah, they taking him on a ride. They're playing a little game. It's like, okay, so now it's interesting that we have 2 episodes left. It's like, okay, there's normally with like what they do, it's like, okay, so we have 1 episode left to resolve everything else, but we have 2 episodes. Like, okay, now we have to see how the Daleks are going to react to these new happy Daleks. I want to hear them talk. Like, I think that would be really funny. Like, to have them be really friendly, but it's that exact same voice.
And if it's Jamie's personality, though, would they have an accent?
Would they be Scottish Daleks? I don't even know how to attempt to do that impression. So, maybe. But, I mean, we kind of have been saying for a while, it's like, okay, the human factors is like, okay, like courage and empathy and stuff like that. It's like, well, this sounds like a contradiction for the Daleks. Like, that's not really going to, like, they're not going to like that because they are so, well, just not human.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, well, maybe that could somehow play into them becoming better and evolving, but the Doctor has now put it into they're just really friendly. So, they're like pets now. So, I'm also curious if this is... We didn't really see how Maxtable reacted to that also. So, we're not sure if this is... If he's like, oh, yeah, this is exactly what they wanted, or if he's like... They are going to kill us because this is not right. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Not their brightest idea to put their trust in the Doctor, too. So,
But, then again, we've had so little continuity between the Dalek episodes that we can't really fault the writers for that because, again, nothing has been consistent from episode to episode.
So,
They're playing roundabouts! Oh, I'm getting dizzy! Oh, dear!
Yeah, I can imagine inside that thing it was probably pretty bad.
I'm dizzy.
Who is this?
Oh, this is
Doctor
Jamie.
pulls a marker out of
He's
his
a
pocket,
friend.
removes the lid, and bends in front of a Dalek.
Well, say hello, Jamie. Hello. You know what a friend is, don't you? It's somebody who likes you. Who
This
wants
is very
to
weird.
help you and
this is really stupid.
to bring the Doctor and his companion to you here for our little trip.
Yes.
And then the secret. You will give it me.
Yes.
The formula.
Oh, so
The
we're all going to
transportation
Skaro then?
Yes.
We'll have to follow the Daleks to Skaro. Jamie, open the doors. Doctor, come along.
Okay, I guess we're all just going to Skaro
They're
now.
locked, they're locked.
As Jamie helps Waterfield to walk, the Doctor moves to a large cavernous hole in the rock face.
Not a sound. I think the Daleks are in for a little surprise.
Jamie and Waterfield follow the Doctor through the crevice.
He's been to these caves before.
The Doctor, Jamie, and Waterfield edge slowly along the path.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird crap on Skaro. Honestly, they need to go get the Thals, if they're still around.
As he stands, the Doctor examines the marking on the Dalek.
Follow me.
What was that screaming?
A prisoner.
Where?
Follow me. I will show you.
Oh, did they fake it?
What are you doing? That wasn't the real Omega at all. All sorts of tricks,
Doctor just
aren't they?
yeeted that Dalek over the cliff.
The human factor showed us what the Dalek factor was.
What? Means to obey, to fight, to destroy, to exterminate.
You will take the Dalek factor. You will spread it through the entire history of Earth.
So they're saying you'll take it back in time to Earth because the TARDIS isn't that reliable. It's gonna take like 8 or 9 tries to get back to where they want to go. Okay.
So the Dalek factor is just ruthlessness, just blindly following orders.
Yeah.
That's what got him into trouble in the first place.
I thought they already knew that, so
Apparently they don't.
maybe it's just like, I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe they're still early. I mean, we don't know at what point in the Dalek timeline this is. So this could be, you know, they have time travel, so it's got to be sometime after the chase, because that was around, I would imagine that was the first time they had time travel. They invented it, and they were like, hey, let's go deal with the one guy that always beats us. So now, whether or not this is before or after the Daleks' master plan is debatable. I don't know. I'm not quite sure the placement of this one, but it could be that they just haven't figured out everything about themselves. So it's through the experiment, finding the human factors, like, okay, this is what humans are. Then let's double down on what Daleks are. Yeah. It falls apart a little bit, but it's alright. It's nice to return to Skaro. I mean, we haven't been to Skaro since the first Dalek serial, so so it has been a while. And then I guess this Supreme Dalek, Proto-Davros kind of character is interesting. So yeah, but the Dalek factor. Yeah, it is one of those things, like, you kind of think you already knew that, didn't you? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they'll explain it a bit more. But they also did say, like, okay, so it was something like, we want you to take it through Earth's history. Maybe just to put Daleks at different points in history to just completely collapse Earth's history. That could be how they take down humans.
Again, I'm baffled.
Yeah, and obviously, again, the TARDIS is not that reliable. You know, even though you could say, like, oh well, does the TARDIS know where it's going, or is it just, you know, the TARDIS takes the Doctor where she wants to go, never where he wants to go. So, but definitely, if the Daleks want to take the TARDIS somewhere, the TARDIS is not going to take them there, because the TARDIS is smarter than that. So, yeah, I don't know. This is sort of an odd turn on this one. I'm still curious if they know alchemy. Like, I'm at this point, I'm thinking, okay, that was probably just a story they told just to get Maxtable on their side. But I would honestly, that'd be really cool if, like, no, we do have alchemy. Like, we're not going to tell you now. Like, we're not going to tell you now, but we do know that. We're that good.
I might even try and take you to my own planet.
Hello?
Yes, I live a long, long way away from Earth. Oh, just a minute. Maxtable. Arthur Terrell. The Daleks put some sort of control device on him.
What of it?
I guess it could be, instead of making Daleks like humans, they're going to make humans like Daleks.
69.5 gold! I wanted you gold! I told you it was possible!
They actually knew how to do it.
I obey!
Oh, okay, never mind, not alchemy.
Maxwell walks stiffly through the room, past the others, and out of the door.
Okay, now I get it. It's very interesting how Doctor Who will reuse stories like these later. Like, this and Power are basically remade with future Doctors.
I have had your TARDIS placed outside the city. I will take you to it. Rise and follow me.
They really try to hypnotize the Doctor?
Will be sprayed into the atmosphere of the Earth. I must examine the machine.
Do so.
As Maxwell walks away, the Doctor moves towards the machine.
Start busting it.
He removes the capsule from the control panel and produces a similar one from his pocket. He fixes the new capsule into the control panel and closes the flap.
Through the door. What? Trust me. What are you doing? Take me to your emperor.
Doctor moves away from the doorway.
Oh, it's the Emperor of the Daleks.
All Daleks must pass through the archway door. The Dalek with the human factor will then become a Dalek again. Will become as this human and I have become. Let it be done! I obey!
This is an interesting ruse.
Makes you wonder why there are chairs when Daleks can't sit down.
They're old artifacts from when they used to be the Khaleds.
I've given them all the human factor! Go on! Go
They're all
on!
going to be friendly Daleks now.
Continue working! Why? Yes, why? Do not question! Why? Why? Why not question? Why?
They're preschoolers. They're
Yeah.
toddlers.
Oof. Oh, they're not that peaceful.
Ew.
Ugh.
It's a Jello salad.
Ugh.
Wheels go, Doctor. Yes, I know. I finished now.
Waterfield pushes the doctor.
Ugh.
Dalek junkyard.
Ugh.
Speaking. There is danger here. Obey me. Do not fight in here. Do not fight in here.
You cannot fight in the war room.
Ugh.
As they jostle for position, they move closer to the edge of the cliff.
Oh no.
As their feet slip, Maxwell pushes Kimmel over the edge and the Turk plunges to his death.
Oh no.
Maxwell turns and heads towards Jamie.
Ah, it didn't even work. It's interesting. You know, we have the whole thing of like censored clips are taken out, so we have those, but well, I guess Daleks exploding, I guess maybe that needed to be censored somewhere.
That's a heck of a set.
Yeah.
But he didn't die in vain. I think we've seen the end of the Daleks forever.
Well,
Jimmy,
you said that the first time.
to the TARDIS is over there.
And that is the totally 100% never coming back end of the Daleks.
Now, what happened to Maxtable? He was
Burned,
still,
I guess.
I was going to say, though, but he was still alive the last moment that we saw
Well, yeah,
him.
presumably because he is technically a Dalek, he went back into the city, and he will eventually be drawn into that conflict in the Emperor's throne room, I guess. So, all right, that well, it's still I would probably say one of the best Dalek serials we've had. So,
Other than the fact that it literally does not connect to hardly anything else we've ever seen of the Daleks.
yeah, they never really. But that's the thing, is that they always have, like, you know, like, it's a different crop of Daleks pretty much every time. Like, because in the first one, we had, like, oh, the Daleks are gone forever. Sure they are. And then we come back and it's like, oh, the Daleks are invading Earth. Well, is it in their past, or is it just, did they come back somehow? Maybe they did survive? We don't know. But yeah.
Okay.
So, I think, actually, while obviously this isn't the absolute end of the Daleks, I think we are going to take a break from them for a while. So,
Now, we didn't, in our tour of Classic Who, we didn't see any other Daleks until Remembrance of the Daleks, did we?
Well, there was Genesis of the Daleks.
Oh, Genesis, yeah.
But that was also specifically the beginnings of the Daleks,
Yeah.
so that wasn't like one of these where it's like, oh, the Daleks are back, let's go fight them. So that one was very specific.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm at least pretty sure we're taking a break from the Daleks for a while. So okay, let's just go ahead and say, quickly rank all of the Dalek serials we've had.
Well, you can do that. Again, I think the concept of the Daleks is brilliant, but the execution of the various writers has been spotty, in my opinion.
So we had the Daleks, which was pretty solid, dragged on a little bit in some episodes, being 7 parts. Then we had the Dalek Invasion of Earth,
which was, again, okay, but didn't fit into where we could figure out where they came from, because they were supposedly destroyed on Skaro the first time.
The Chase,
which was, again, it was interesting, but it to me it wasn't as well written as it should have been.
Yeah. The Daleks Master Plan,
which went absolutely off the rails after about the 4th episode.
Yeah. The Power of the Daleks.
Again, it was an interesting premise, but I don't think it went where they expected it to go.
I think with Power of the Daleks, everything with the Daleks was interesting, but like the colony was a bit like, okay, I don't fully understand what we're doing with this colony, and I think the biggest hindrance on that is the fact that this is the Second Doctor's first story, and that is not a good first story to do.
Now, what was right after that? Because didn't we say if they had done the second story first?
The Highlanders.
Highlanders, yeah.
Yeah. So if they had done the Highlanders first, that would have given you a decent amount of, the Second Doctor's personality and him developing it. Then you throw in the Daleks. That could have worked a lot better. And then, we've only had 6, because after Power comes Evil of the Daleks, which is just the title they needed. Like I was trying to think, well, could you call this the Factor of the Daleks? That's just weird. So the Evil of the Daleks, which I guess the evil is the Dalek Factor.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, probably this one, even though these last 2 episodes they get slightly goofy with the Dalek humans. We're gonna have to differentiate. So the Dalek humans and the human Daleks, basically. They were kind of goofy, but I get what they were going for. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Okay, so we had Terrell, who was being controlled by a device, which he just was why they needed him to do that?
Yeah, that whole storyline with Toby and Terrell and Ruth did not seem to fit into the rest of the story.
Yeah, because going back to now, it's okay, well, clearly they possessed him for some reason. It's but why? He didn't do anything except he was there.
Well, was he the one who ultimately enticed Victoria to be captured by the Daleks? I mean, it didn't seem really clear.
No, it was Maxtable. He went up and just captured her, and then he used his hypnosis so that she would forget about it.
Okay.
So, yeah, unless it was Terrell was maybe that was a test to see if the Dalek factor would work, but he wasn't acting like a Dalek or anything. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. He was really just sort of there. They just kind of forgot what to do with him.
As we speculated in the first 4 episodes, we actually thought that if we had been watching this back in the 60s, we might have thought that Molly would have become the newest companion, because she certainly seemed to be a girl who was more aware than Victoria is. Victoria seems to be a very innocent young girl.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, Molly seemed to be, although she was a servant girl, as oftentimes happens in stories like this, she possessed way more worldly knowledge, and it seemed like she would have made a better companion. But, again, we'll see what Victoria turns into. And again, I can't really tell from the stills, and I only vaguely remember the Tomb and the Cybermen. She looks very young. I mean, she looks even younger than, Susan and Vicky. I mean, she looks to me like she's about 16 years old in the stills. Now, I'm sure that once we see her, moving around, she probably won't be quite that young looking, but
maybe
just those close-up stills, she looks like a teenager.
Yeah, which, I mean, Susan was kind of supposed to be a teenager. Oh, I mean, there's a lot of things that contradict that. First, she was a student at Coal Hill, but she's also, Gallifreyan, even though they haven't said that yet. But she's from another world, so she could be older than she looks. Also, the actress was in, like, her early 20s when she played Susan. So, it's a whole lot of factors of, we're not really sure how old Susan was. So, I mean, because that's the thing, too. It's like, oh, well, if Susan was actually 17, but the Doctor, was nearly 500 years old, it's like, well, that's quite an age difference between these two. So, and then Vicky, I mean, I don't know, because Vicky was also supposed to, she was one of the companions that took over Susan's role, so she was supposed to be younger, but yeah, I don't know if she was supposed to be a teenager or if she was actually supposed to be early 20s, because, I mean, they had the whole thing of like, oh, well, she has like 10 PhDs or whatever that she got when she was 10, so it's like, well, do you keep going through that? I don't know.
But again, here, just from the physical appearance of her and the fact that she is a woman from the 1860s. All right? Now, Jamie being, again, I know he's not a soldier, he was a piper, but he's been trained. For Jamie to adapt, it's kind of like Ben. He's got that military background sort of where he would be able to adapt well to it. But here is a young girl who her entire life has been kept as a dainty young thing, and to suddenly throw her into this mix, kind of, again, looking at it now, I don't know if I would have felt the same way 50 years ago, but that seems an odd companion.
Yeah, I mean, it's not quite Katarina levels of, like, she's just not going to understand anything, but I guess you could even say, like, if there's something that she doesn't understand, then you'd almost think that Jamie would try to fill her in, but how well can he do that? Like, if they go to another airport and she's like, what is this, giant metal thing? He's like, it's a flying beastie. Is it? I don't know, but that's what I call it. So, like,
well, apparently we're in for some interesting times with Victoria and Jamie and the Doctor, because again, we're looking at this going, because as audience members, we're going, we have no clue where this is going, based on what we have seen for the last 3.5, 4 years now. We've finished up. This is the end of the 4th season.
Yes, actually.
So, where does a Victorian young lady fit into all of this?
Yeah, because even with Jamie, for a while, he still had Ben and Polly. So, they were from the 1960s, so they knew a bit more.
Yeah.
Not everything, like, when they go to the future and stuff, but, I mean, we used to have Stephen and Vicky, who were far in the future. Now we have Jamie and Victoria, who are in the past.
Yeah.
And none of them at all reached to where the Doctor was on his planet. Technically, I guess.
Okay.
So, all right. Maxtable, he's got his hypnosis, which, I mean, they didn't really factor into much, but he did. That is the explanation of how they captured Victoria. So, there's that.
And again, that was very big during the Victorian times. So much so that Nikola Tesla, I can't remember if it's Nicholas or Nikola. Anyway, Tesla was fascinated by that and thought that it could be harnessed, if I recall correctly. So, yeah, that made perfect sense to me. And again, threw the whole thing with Terrell into, because I couldn't figure out, was he hypnotized? Was he not hypnotized?
Yeah.
And then they finally, and again, who put that thing on him? I mean, if the Daleks put that thing on him, was it to get him to obey? And did it malfunction because he seemed sometimes to obey and sometimes not to obey?
Yeah.
So it was, again, a thread that did not, a loose thread that did not get tied up at the end.
Yeah. Because you don't even, you honestly don't even need his character, because you have Waterfield there, and it's like, okay, you have Maxtable, who's more, in with the Daleks and their plan, and obviously to get the secrets of alchemy and stuff, and Waterfield, who's doing all this because they've captured Victoria, but then you have Terrell there, and it's like, well, why did you need this character there? It's like, because honestly, at first when you meet him, you'd honestly might think like, oh, was this like maybe he was betrothed to Victoria? And it's like, well, no, he's married, I guess, to Maxtable's daughter, who also has no purpose in this story.
Yeah. And the whole Homie thing. I mean, the guy who kidnaps Jamie and then gets killed. It's like, why? I mean,
well, because they kind of use that to establish the sort of, fighting personalities within Terrell. It's like, you told me to kidnap him. It's like, I did not tell you to do that. So, I don't know. It's like they establish that, but then nothing happens.
Yeah. Well, let's jettison that whole subplot and move on.
Let's see. We had the factors. So the human factor put into a Dalek made them friendly, happy children, basically.
But the main thing that came out of that, though, is also what children do, and it's one of the reasons that I started teaching. It's that always question. I must know more. All right, if you want me to do something, tell me why. And that's what I hopefully do with my students. I'm saying, here's what happened, and I'm not just telling you that it happened. I'm trying to tell you why it happened and what we can learn from it.
Yeah, but that doesn't work with Daleks because they're saying it's like, no, just do as you are told.
Yes.
So that was interesting. And then just at the beginning when it's like, oh, they're friendly now. I was like, we are friends. And then they start taking him on a ride and playing trains and stuff. Like, all right, that was kind of goofy, but I get it.
And this is so minor. Having taught the Greek alphabet in my world history classes, when the doctor called the second one beta instead of beta, I never understood. I've never heard anyone pronounce it beta. And then didn't he also say originally omega? But the Dalek said omega.
Maybe. It was something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he might have also said it, like they say later on with the character in the Three Doctors, omega instead of omega. But the Daleks, I never thought about this. The Doctors, the Daleks, they don't really stress syllables per se. They stress every syllable because that's just how they talk. So they wouldn't say omega, they would say omega. So it was something like that.
And when the Doctor and sorry to get back on Terrell for a second, when Terrell picked up the sword and the Doctor's screwdriver was attracted to it, was that just to tell the Doctor that there was something like the thing on him? That So okay,
I think whatever this thing was sending some sort of, I guess it was controlling him through some sort of electrical pulse.
Okay.
So that created the electricity in his finger, which magnetized the screwdriver to the sword.
Okay. Never mind.
Yes. It was something like that.
Because I just remembered that and I went, magnetic sword, where was that going? And it was just to establish that he did have a thing. Right.
Yeah. Let's see. The Doctor put those symbols on the Daleks. And then later we had the one Dalek who they faked it. They put a different symbol, and the Doctor figured it out. Who drew that on there, though?
It's like, why are there chairs?
Yeah.
And here's something else that I didn't say at the time. The Doctor and I guess it wasn't Waterfield with them when they were and Jamie, when they were walking along the ledge.
Yeah.
Weren't they kind of scooting along? So you're thinking the ledge is maybe like just wider than a human foot. And then suddenly here's the Dalek on the ledge, and this thing's got to be at least a yard wide.
Yeah, that's true.
And so they push him over, and then they're edging along the side again. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was that they were staying closer to the wall because, there's all sorts of weird things in the water because this is Skaro.
It is Skaro with the weird stuff. And it is surprising there was no Thals. There were no Thals and nothing else.
I'm honestly curious if the Thals are ever mentioned again until Genesis of the Daleks. Like, honestly, pretty much after the first serial, when I guess the Daleks come back somehow, they probably just, figure out their whole static electricity thing, go out and just commit genocide on the Thals. That's probably the first genocide of the Daleks. So, it was also, you were saying, like, oh, why do they have chairs? Like, oh, well, maybe they knew they were going to have prisoners, so just in case they have some chairs. But there is a joke later on where it's a Capaldi episode where he's captured by Davros, and he's captured and he wakes up, and Davros says, "You must be so honored, Doctor. You are now sitting on the only other chair on Skaro." And it's just a little plastic, like, school chair. And it's like, yep, that's it. Other than Davros' chair, that is the only chair, because they don't need it. So, and we did return to Skaro in this, which was really cool. Again, we haven't seen it. They've mentioned it, like, once or twice, like, with the time machine, like, oh, we have new orders from Skaro. So that's, like, the slight continuity between all of them. It's like, yeah, obviously the Daleks are from Skaro.
And I had wondered if at the end of this they were going to somehow return the Doctor and Jamie and Victoria to Gatwick Airport, because, or the antique shop, because I didn't realize that they had brought the TARDIS somehow to Skaro.
I guess they just used that device that brought them to the mansion in the first place. So I guess they just used that with just on everyone, the Daleks, the TARDIS, and everyone, to get to Skaro. So, but yeah, I was also thinking, like, before they left, like, okay, so they got to get back to Skaro. Maybe they use the teleport, go back to Gatwick Airport or the antique shop where the TARDIS is, and, cross your fingers and pray that the TARDIS will take you to Skaro so that you can go save Victoria. So, let's see. Well, I wrote down Supreme Dalek, but it was the Emperor of the Daleks.
The Dalek Emperor, yes.
And
again, we noticed that the one Dalek, the first one we saw, had the black top, and then there were others.
Yeah.
And at the end, they said something about black Daleks. Is that the police force? Why would they need a police force? Why would they need variations of Daleks?
Yeah, I assume that the black top Daleks were more just the superior officers. So just all the normal ones, they're just, standard
drones, basically.
Yeah, and then the black tops are the superiors. There's only a certain number of them, and they all report to the Emperor. Which this is the first time we've had just a solid Dalek leader before, and they don't really talk about it. It's like, oh, there he is. He looks kind of different. He's got tubes.
And I guess, again, what's weird about that is if you go back through our history with the Daleks, they really were, obviously fascist, but also the idea of the socialists, that there wasn't one leader, that, they were more like the hive mind.
Yeah.
So now that they have a specific Dalek Emperor, that introduces a whole new dynamic. So
yeah. So, because I guess among the Daleks there is some sort of equality. All the Daleks are equal, and then I guess that's the old, but some Daleks are more equal than others.
More equal than others, yes.
Right down to the... Well, see, because, the Daleks have always been a Nazi allegory. Are they now like a weird Soviet Union allegory? Like, is the Emperor of the Daleks actually Stalin or something? Could be.
I mean, I refuse to mention that time period between 1939 and 1945, because you always ding me when I say, those words.
I mean,
but
it's the
yes,
Daleks that'll be brought
but
up.
See, that's the whole thing. That's what we were so disappointed with the Dalek Master Plan, is it literally did start out as an almost identical parallel of what happened, and then just went totally off the rails. And I'm still wondering what they could have done if they had seriously showed, here's what could have happened if the Dalek history had paralleled Earth's history in that time period, and how would Allies have been able to defeat that, because the Daleks didn't have, the madman at the top of the chain like Hitler was.
Nah, maybe. I mean, I suppose it could still happen, but I don't know. Because eventually we will end up getting Davros, and he's sort of the top of the chain, as the creator.
And by the way, before I forget this, that reminds me, again, I haven't seen any of the New Who beyond Matt Smith. So I haven't seen anything of Capaldi or Jodie Whittaker. But I did see an article this week that isn't Jodie Whittaker now finishing up her third season?
She just finished up her second.
Second season, all right. But they're already starting to speculate as to who will replace her. And the article that I read said a lot of the fans are seeing if Michael Sheen would be interested in being the Doctor, which would be kind of cool because he would kind of be a reversal back to Hartnell and Pertwee and Troughton and some of the earlier Doctors, because he's just got that lovable kind of goofiness to him, but he's also can be a very serious actor. I mean, we've seen that in several of the things that he's done. So I would be very interested to see Michael Sheen as the Doctor.
Yeah, that'd be pretty interesting. And then, if that happens around like the 60th anniversary, then you bring back David Tennant as the 10th Doctor, and it's basically a Good Omens reunion. Just adding in all the other Doctors.
Yes.
So, let's see. The Dalek factor. So at least we got clarification on the Dalek factor of like, oh yes, we're going to have you introduce this to Earth. Like, okay, what does that mean exactly? And it's like, oh, okay. They want to turn humans into Daleks, basically, like they did with Maxtable here. So, again, that's another element of a Dalek story in Tennant's run that, is borrowed from here. Because, last episode I mentioned, it's like, okay, there is another episode where the Daleks need the Doctor to help them evolve, and now they are creating human Daleks. Like, that is exactly what that is. Yeah. And so, and that was a good episode, but it's just interesting because also with Power of the Daleks, with the idea of the Daleks being like, servants, and only the Doctor really knows who they really are, that was also kind of remade in Matt Smith's era. So yeah, it's interesting to see like which of these episodes are basically just being remade.
And what's that old saying? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Yeah. So
they're just remaking old episodes because they worked before. Why wouldn't they work again?
Yeah. Plus, there's probably only so many ideas you can have for the Daleks. So
yeah, especially after it's one thing if you have 5 to 7 seasons of something, but when you've gone through now, what they had 26 of the original, and now 15 of
12
of the new one.
Yes.
All right. So you're looking at again, literally what 40 something seasons.
Yeah, across almost 60 years.
How many ideas can you come up with?
Yeah.
Although I'm interested if they would again, because I think you mentioned this, that they've actually taken other stories. Didn't you say that they meet William Shakespeare? And they could do that and meet various characters in history where they take a story and then that is already known and then simply change it slightly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess you mean like events in their lives and stuff. Yeah, I don't think like for Shakespeare, it's not anything like specific in his history. And even like the closest is recently I watched an episode with Jodie Whittaker where they actually went back to Alabama in 1955 and met Rosa Parks, and they were actually involved with her having to her refusing to give up her seat and everything. And it's interesting because they'll do episodes with like Charles Dickens, but it's nothing really like, it's sort of after he's already put out A Christmas Carol and stuff, and it's like, oh, here's Charles Dickens and he's helping out, and it's like that time it was no, they were there, they had to sit on that bus in order to make sure that everything went through with her. So yeah, it was a really great episode. It was actually one of those, like, after I watched it I was like, this would be a really great episode to watch with you as a introduction to the 13th Doctor. So maybe we'll do that sometime. Let's see. Well, they tried controlling the Doctor, making him a Dr. Dalek. Didn't work out.
Because he's not human, as he explained.
Yeah, which is I was very curious, when he started explaining, it's like, oh yes, I'm from a different planet, so far away and into the future and stuff. It's like, I was very curious if he was gonna say Gallifrey or mention the Time Lords or anything like that, but no, we will still have to wait.
But they are setting it up.
Yes, because I'm pretty sure at the very least the Time Lords will show up during the Second Doctor's era. So
yeah, because don't they at the end of Troughton's run, aren't they the ones who force him to regenerate and then confine him to Earth?
Yes.
So at least by the end of the sixth season.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I believe we only have 2 more seasons of Troughton.
Yeah.
So let's see. Yeah, we had all the. I did like the ruse of, oh yes, one of the Daleks question things, so don't worry, we'll have all the Daleks go through the doorway so that they are all 100% Dalek. Trust me, it'll work. And then it's like, oh, they all go through and all become more human. Like, that seems like a bit much, especially when it's like, you can find the Dalek that, questioned you. They all have a symbol. Those 3 had symbols, but still, it worked out. And then just all the questioning of why. That was funny. I did kind of think, they say it's like, oh, they're like children, they're happy and full of life and stuff like that. And I was sitting there like, they're kind of like hippies, like hippie Daleks. So
Groovy man.
But unlike hippies, they did start murdering when they had to.
Yes.
So.
They when they were threatened, they were not peaceful. They fought back.
Although I don't know, maybe there's a murdering hippie somewhere.
Well, Charles Manson comes to mind.
Well, I guess that's true.
Although, as they say, Charles Manson never actually committed murder. He just, wait for it, incited others to do it.
Well, that's...
And so, I mean, that has come up very, very recently, of course, January 6th, because he was ultimately convicted of those murders because he had essentially incited his followers to go out and kill people, and that made him guilty of murder himself.
Yeah.
So, if you incite people to do stuff, you are held accountable for it.
Yeah. So, I guess these Daleks were the Charles Mansons of Daleks.
Let's not go there. That's too weird.
We'll put that on a t-shirt somewhere. And I guess the last thing I wrote down is the end of the Daleks.
And again, we saw some of the clips, which apparently, were the ones that had been censored, but that looked like it would have been an astounding scene to have watched.
Yeah.
Just dozens of Daleks, and again, many of them blowing up, and there's flames and smoke and all this other stuff going on there. So I would imagine anybody watching that in, 1967 or 68 now, would have said, wow, I think they would have been very convinced that that was the end of the Daleks.
Yeah, honestly. Because, the last time they said that was the first Dalek serial, so that's 4 years ago at that point. So if you do remember all the way back then, it's like, well, wait, they were destroyed one time and then they came back. It's like, yeah, you probably look at this and they might actually be gone. So, yeah.
And kind of interesting, too, because I don't think that was model work. It appeared to be a very large studio type set, and they were blowing stuff up. Yeah,
it looked like, because they had shots, it was still in the recon, but shots of, the Doctor and Maxtable in that room talking to the Emperor, and then it was pretty much an identical shot showing him exploding and stuff. So,
special effects, kudos.
Yeah, they had the budget for that. Make sure all the cameras are running because we don't get a second take of this.
Ready when you are, CB.
Oh yeah. Ooh. But yeah, that's basically that for the evil of the Daleks.
What do we got coming up next? Oh, that's right, Tomb of the Cybermen.
Yep, our first rewatch, which is interesting. I've actually been going back and forth on how I'm going to put that in the title, so it'll be a reaction to that one. So. We also might be trying out something a tad different for the discussion next time, because I don't know how much we're actually going to say in the discussions. Okay, like, we can't discuss it fully because we already did. You
Okay,
know?
but again, first of all, it was almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Secondly, we watched that in isolation. I personally knew nothing about Troughton. I knew nothing about the Cybermen. I didn't remember them from the first time around. So watching it now is watching it with an entire season of Troughton, so that we know what's going on in that situation. Now we know who Jamie is, and although this will be the first one with Victoria, we'll have a little bit better idea of the entire concept rather than sitting through the first one going, okay, just kind of guessing at it.
Yeah, so we will have it in a bit more context, and we at least know that the full episode is there. So, no recons next time, at least.
Yay!
And it's actually interesting, too, because, next episode we'll have that. And then about 4 episodes later, we'll do that again, because we'll have the Web of Fear.
Oh, yeah, the what was it, the Yeti, which were actually like gorilla suits with diving bells on their head? Or is that something else that I'm thinking of?
I mean, there were Yeti, so something like that.
Again, it's 2 years ago. I've slept a few times since then.
Yeah, but the good news for that is the added context of watching the actual episode that precedes that, because that was sort of a sequel episode to something else.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I guess that's basically that, so...
Okay.
Yeah. Next week, we're back to the Cybermen, because the Cybermen are now becoming like the Daleks, and they will show up every time now, and also, like the Daleks, they were all killed, then they came back. We're not sure how, but that's just kind of that. So, yeah. Yeah, that is basically it. With all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. If you want to watch more of our Doctor Who classic reactions, you can click on the playlist, you can subscribe if you haven't done that already, and be sure you hit that notification bell. You can support me on Patreon and follow me on social media, links below in the description. See you guys later.